My sister-in-law saved my life with her own breast milk, so I care for her more than anything in the world. It all started 3 days ago when my older brother and I went hunting up in the mountains and ran into a Siberian tiger. Before we left, my brother had downed 18 bowls of booze. Riding that liquid courage, he actually thought he was some kind of invincible tiger slayer. I even went by the nickname, the Tiger Hunter. Looking at my brother right in front of me, I kept screaming at him to climb up the tree and take cover like I did. But what did he do? The crazy bastard charged straight at the tiger. He really thought he was going to be a big, tiger-slaying hero. Instead, he ended up as an all-you-can-eat buffet for the beast that night. As for me, I hid up in that tree and watched the whole horrific thing. By the time the tiger finally left, I was so utterly drained that I just fell straight out of the branches. I had to drag myself back home, inch by painful inch, right up to the front door before I completely blacked out. I hadn't lifted a finger to save my brother. Between the crushing guilt and the sheer terror, I actually ended up in a coma for 3 straight days and nights. When I finally came to, the first thing I saw was my sister-in-law, holding my baby nephew who was only a few months old. She was keeping watch right by my side. The news about my brother had already spread through the whole village. But she didn't even have the luxury of grieving. She went into the kitchen and stared at the only thing we had left, a single bowl of plain white porridge. In the end, she didn't bring it out to me. She knew that in my condition, I desperately needed something with real nutrients. So, she pumped her own breast milk into a baby bottle. Then, she gently cradled my head and fed me, just like a newborn baby. Feeling that warm liquid, rich in fat and protein, pure instinct took over, and I started gulping it down. Finally, a little bit of strength returned to my body. Seeing as I was the only man left in the house now, I made up my mind. I was going to use my own 2 hands to give her and my nephew a good life. And since I had drank so much of her milk, I had to find a way to pay her back. The plan was to earn enough money to buy her some nutritional supplements. But, with zero education, my only option was heading down to the docks to do backbreaking labor, carrying heavy sacks. The sun down there was blazing like absolute hellfire. I hoisted a 200-pound burlap sack onto my back. With every single step, my shoes left black skid marks on the scorching stone pavement. If it had been the old me, I would have collapsed from heat exhaustion ages ago. But the weird thing was, ever since drinking that bottle of milk from my sister-in-law, there had been this burning heat building up inside my body, and it just wouldn't fade away. That heat seeped deep into my bones, making my arms and legs feel like they had endless, unstoppable power. The sun at the docks was like a giant fireball, baking the pavement until it was literally smoking. Hauling that 200-pound sack around, I felt like a walking sauna. "Chang, what the hell are you on, man? Those are 200-pound sacks of raw iron ore. You're moving faster than crazy old Shunzi chasing down a wife." Right at that moment, a massive cracking sound echoed in the air. Oh my god. The crane cable snapped. A massive shipping container, fully loaded with steel beams, came crashing down like a goddamn mountain. The other dockworkers scrambled for their lives, crawling over each other to get away. Old Wong was so terrified he just froze and collapsed onto the ground. He screamed like a slaughtered pig, "We're dead. A Chang is gonna get crushed into a meat patty." As tons of steel plummeted down on me, my legs instinctively planted themselves firmly into the ground, and both my hands shot straight up to the sky. Boom, the colossal shipping container stopped, dead in its tracks, right in the palms of my hands. The solid concrete beneath my feet shattered like brittle tofu, cracking wide open with a deafening crunch. But all I felt was a slight weight on my shoulders. Honestly, it felt like I was just holding up 2 buckets of water. The entire dock went dead silent. Old Wong trembled as he scrambled to his feet and slowly crept closer to get a look. He reached out and touched the bottom of the shipping container I was holding, then aggressively slapped himself across the face. "Chang, are you the damn god of war reincarnated?" Honestly, I was just as clueless as he was. But I realized, the second my palm pressed against the metal, it felt like a 3D printer suddenly popped into my head. An exact replica of the shipping container quickly took shape in my mind. I just casually reached into my pocket, and somehow pulled out a steel screw, identical to the one on the container's lock, completely out of nowhere. Maybe my brother is watching over me from heaven. Didn't he always used to call himself the great tiger fighting hero? This strength, He must have passed it down to me in a dream. If my brother actually had this kind of power, that tiger would have dropped to its knees and called him daddy that night. Night fell fast. Once the superpower wore off, a wave of exhaustion hit me like a flood. I felt like a deflated balloon, barely able to walk straight. There was a bowl of sweet potato porridge waiting on the table. My sister-in-law was gently patting my baby nephew in her arms, looking at me with such concern. "Ah Chang, old Wong told me you played the hero down at the docks today. You can't keep pushing yourself like that. If something bad happens to you, who are the baby and I supposed to rely on?" "Ah, sis, I was just..." My natural superhuman strength just suddenly awakened. I mumbled back absent-mindedly. But my eyes were completely glued to that baby bottle on the stove. "Hey, eat up. Stop staring at that bottle. That is midnight milk saved for little tiger." My sister-in-law's face flushed a little pink, and she quickly got up to put the baby to sleep. Time flew by, and soon it was exactly 12 midnight. I carefully crawled out of bed and slipped right into the kitchen, quiet as a gecko. Bathed in the moonlight, that baby bottle was practically radiating this irresistible temptation. I grabbed the bottle and silently prayed in my head. "Sorry, little tiger, your uncle is just doing this to build us a better future. If you drink a little less tonight, uncle will magically conjure up a whole box of formula for you tomorrow." As I gulped down the warm liquid, that feeling of electricity rushing through my entire body instantly came back. I felt like I could punch a hole right through a concrete wall. Who's in there?" My sister-in-law's voice suddenly echoed from the doorway. It scared me so bad my hand shook. I slowly, stiffly turned my head, only to see her standing there in a thin nightgown, gripping a fire poker. She was glaring at me, looking absolutely shocked and suspicious. "Ah Chang? Why aren't you asleep, and what on earth are you doing holding little tiger's baby bottle in the middle of the night?" My brain was spinning a mile a minute. My palms were completely dripping with sweat. Suddenly, I had a stroke of genius. I scrunched up my face, looking like I was in deep pain. "Sis, I was sleepwalking. I had a dream about my big brother. He told me he was starving, and practically dragged me here to find something to eat. Then I just woke up, and somehow I'm holding this bottle?" Looking totally unconvinced, she walked over and snatched the half-empty bottle from my hand. She eyed me with deep suspicion. "So, you sleepwalk, and somehow perfectly feed yourself while doing it? You seriously need to get this condition treated. I'll get it treated tomorrow." The second I said that, I bolted out of the kitchen as fast as I could. But I just couldn't resist making one last joke before escaping. "Hey, sis, I gotta say, whatever I drank while sleepwalking was actually pretty sweet. Get your ass back to bed. That was meant for your nephew's brain development. What, you think drinking it is gonna make you grow taller or something?" Hearing that, I secretly laughed to myself. Sure, I might not grow any taller, but my powers are definitely growing. Early the very next morning, I was jolted awake by my sister-in-law screaming, "Ah Chang, get out here right now." I rubbed my eyes and dragged myself over, feeling a huge wave of panic inside. After chugging that magic milk last night, my strength didn't just explode. My brain was so wired, I couldn't sleep, so I got up to use the outhouse. And right there on the kitchen stove, was a can of milk powder. This was the top-grade goat milk powder that my big brother bought from the city department store back in the day. I stared at it blankly, holding the can in my hands, thinking, man, if only we had a few more of these. Then, in the blink of an eye, that single can suddenly multiplied into 2. Oh my god, what on earth is happening? Remembering what happened earlier today, could it be my sister-in-law's magic water? Did it give me these crazy superpowers? Super strength, and infinite duplication? With that in mind, I just went all out and started duplicating the milk powder. Doing that really took a toll on me, and my energy quickly drained away. First thing the next morning, my sister-in-law saw the stove completely buried in cans of milk powder. She pointed at the massive pile of tin cans, her hand trembling. "I just took a nap, and our kitchen somehow sprouted all of these?" "Ah Chang, you tell me the truth. Did you go and rob the foreign trading post in town?" "Look, I'll be honest with you. Last night, while I was sleepwalking, my brother's spirit visited us again. And besides, look at how pure this powder is. If little Vu Zi drinks this, he'll grow up as strong as an ox. Don't worry about where it came from. It's in our house now. So that means it's ours." She still gave me that "do I look like an idiot to you" stare, but looking at her hungry baby, she just couldn't bring herself to throw them away. Getting a good night's sleep must have done the trick, because later at the docks, I was like a human bulldozer. Heavy generators that usually took 4 grown men to carry, I was swinging one in each hand like they were yo-yos. Foreman Wong was staring at me, not like I was his worker, but like his ancestors had just blessed him from heaven. Hey, Chang. My man, take a break. I'll carry these. Don't you lift a finger, boss. Leave the grunt work to me. You just say the word, and I'll break my back getting it done for you. I was about to politely brush him off, when a sudden wave of jeering broke out by the dock entrance. A gang of scummy-looking thugs swaggered in, surrounding a massive, fat guy wearing a thick gold chain. That was Golden Tooth, the most notorious local boss in town. A lone shark who forced people into rigged deals. He casually picked his teeth, glaring at me sideways. HMPH, you've got some muscle on you, kid, but do you really think that's enough to run wild on my docks? Ha, you're way out of your league. Listen here, I've got a shipment of goods that sank straight to the bottom of the river. It's heavy as hell. You go fish it out for me, and maybe I'll toss you 2 silver coins for your trouble. Hey, I scoffed to myself. 2 measly coins? What am I, a beggar? But honestly, I was itching to test out my new powers anyway. So I strolled right up to him, right in front of the whole crowd. I casually picked up a rusted hunk of scrap metal from the ground, tossing it lightly in my hand. Then, I rubbed my hands together over the solid iron, kneading it like it was soft dough. The rusty metal rapidly warped and twisted in my grip. And finally, right before everyone's shocked eyes, I opened my palm. A perfectly round iron ball had been completely crushed into a mangled, irregular clump. The entire dock went dead silent. Nobody could comprehend how a human could have that much raw power. Now, Golden Tooth was no fool. He instantly realized that against a freak of nature like me, numbers didn't mean a damn thing. So he just waved his hand and booked 8 tables at the restaurant. And I didn't back out either. He was planning to recruit me, after all. But just looking at his ruthless, blood-sucking face made me sick, so of course, I said no. But what I totally didn't expect was, this guy actually pulled out a Browning pistol. Back in those days, that thing was the ultimate symbol of power. Ever seen a beauty like this? One pull of this trigger, and your little brute strength is a total joke. Get on your knees, call me boss. And I might just let you play with it. I stared dead at that gun. Suddenly, my mind buzzed. My replication power. It sensed the complex mechanics inside it. Ah Chang, get out here. Right when the tension hit rock bottom, my sister-in-law burst through the doors. She was wearing her usual floral blouse, clutching baby Huzzy tight in her arms. Panic was written all over her face. Gold Tooth let out a filthy smirk, actually getting some sick ideas about her. Don't you dare touch her, I roared, lunging at the table with some kind of crazy, unknown strength. My bare hand slammed down hard on that Browning pistol, but the very next second, an overwhelming emptiness rushed through my entire body. Replicating such a complex weapon drained me of way more energy than I could handle. It felt like my bones were being sucked dry. Gold Tooth just kicked me straight to the floor. I crashed hard into a chair, my body going completely limp. I couldn't even move a single finger. The thugs around us erupted into roaring laughter. This is the big tough guy from the docks? He's shaking like a little leaf. Ha ha ha. My sister-in-law was absolutely terrified. She had no clue what just went down, but seeing my face as pale as a ghost, tears of heartbreak started streaming down her cheeks. Ah Chang. What happened to you? Please, don't scare me like this. She frantically pulled a warm milk bottle from her bag. It was her emergency backup, and she hadn't even fed it to baby Huzzy yet. Here, quickly, drink some. Ignoring everyone staring at us, she cradled my head just like she did at home, and poured it right into my mouth. The second that warm liquid hit my throat, it felt like a bolt of lightning struck my very soul. I could feel every single cell fiercely mutating. My totally drained energy exploded back like a massive tidal wave. Not only was my strength fully back, but my mind was terrifyingly sharp. With a flick of my wrist, you see, in that exact second I touched his gun. I had already fully copied it. I stood straight up, dusted off my clothes, my eyes as cold as ice. Seeing this, Gold Tooth immediately reached for his gun on the table. But right in front of everyone's eyes, I beat him to it, reaching into my jacket. actually pulling out of thin air an exact, identical Browning pistol. Click, a bullet went straight into the chamber. Goldtooth stared at his gun on the table, then at the exact same one in my hand, his eyeballs practically popping out of his skull. You were hiding a piece? That is impossible. I patted you down myself. Guess you didn't look hard enough, huh? What do you think you're doing? Don't do anything crazy. We can talk this out. Easy now. I aimed the gun level with just one hand. That heavy chunk of metal felt as steady as a mountain in my grip. Thanks to my newly boosted physical stats, my eyesight was so sharp I could even see a fly's wings dozens of meters away. Golden Tooth, this gun of yours is a fake, right? I let out a cold laugh, casually waved my left hand, and another Browning appeared right in my grasp. Then came a third, and a fourth. It looked like a magic trick, but nobody dared to laugh. I tossed 5 real pieces onto the table, lining them up in a row. The cold clank of metal shattered their nerves. Are you trying to outnumber me, or outgun me? I glared dead at Golden Tooth. With a heavy thud, he dropped right to his knees. He knew damn well that anyone who could casually whip out that much contraband wasn't just some ordinary laborer. I was a god he couldn't afford to cross. Seeing him groveling like that, I decided not to push it. Let's go home, sis. I stowed the guns away into a hidden pocket of space inside my mind. This was the third ability I had just discovered. It seemed I could store things inside this dimension that only I knew about. I grabbed the half-empty bottle of miracle water, shielded my sister-in-law, and headed for the door. The moment we stepped out of that restaurant, it hit me. As long as I had her by my side, I could build an absolute empire. Moonlight stretched our shadows long on the walk back. My sister-in-law held baby Huzzy tightly against her chest. She didn't say a single word the whole way, but her heavy, ragged breathing told me everything. She still hadn't recovered from the shock. The second we stepped inside the house, she immediately bolted the door shut. "Hey Chang, tell me the absolute truth. We are a decent, honest family. Even though your brother died a tragic death, he never even stole a chicken from the village in his entire life." I looked at her pale, anxious face. My chest tightened. I knew the old sleepwalking excuse wasn't gonna cut it anymore. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the 2 Brownings I just replicated. The heavy metal chunks slammed onto the wooden table, making a loud, dull thud. "Sis, I swear I haven't done anything illegal. The truth is, I've awakened a special trick." I casually picked up a chipped porcelain bowl from the table. As long as I touch something, I can replicate it. But doing it drains almost all my energy. I found out that, as long as I drink I get this insane burst of strength. Even my mind gets super sharp. To prove it, I placed my palm right over the bowl, right in front of her eyes. 2 seconds passed, and then, like absolute magic, an identical chipped porcelain bowl materialized right in my other hand. Trembling, my sister-in-law reached out and touched the 2 bowls. Are you blessed by the gods, or possessed by some demon?" She stared at me, but there was no fear in her eyes, only a deep, aching sympathy. Because right then, I was so utterly exhausted I had to grip the table to stand. That horrible, draining sensation was washing over me again. Replicating complex weapons like those guns had chewed through almost all the mental energy I'd saved up over the past few days. I collapsed onto the wooden bench, gasping heavily for air. Seeing me like this, she didn't care about interrogating me anymore. She immediately rushed into her bedroom. The entire house fell silent, save for the soft sound of baby Huzzy smacking his lips in the cradle. A few minutes later, she walked back out, her face flushed red. In her hands was a baby bottle filled to the brim with warm milk. "Hurry up and drink it, and when you're done, hide those metal things right away. Don't you dare let anyone else see them." I took the bottle from her. Its gentle warmth seemed to melt straight into my heart. With just one gulp, that explosive, overwhelming surge of power instantly rushed back into my veins. But that wasn't all. I realized my 5 senses had suddenly become incredibly sharp. I could even hear the faint buzzing of a cricket rubbing its wings in the corner of the room. Fully recovered, a sudden thought struck me. I could actually use this replication ability to make serious cash. I could finally give my sister-in-law a better life. The only catch was that this power of mine seemingly couldn't copy priceless precious metals. Stuff like gold and diamonds were off limits. And as for replicating antiques, even if I made a flawless copy, it would just be written off as a fake. After all, the whole point of an antique is that it's one of a kind. But that didn't stop me. Since I couldn't just conjure up gold, I had to rely on hard currency to make money. What was the most valuable thing back then? Western medicine, especially those antibiotics they had in hospitals. The very next day, I pocketed my last few bucks and headed to the city hospital. But I didn't buy anything. I just waited until the clerk wasn't looking, and under the guise of inspecting the goods, gently tapped the medicine bottle with the foreign label. The moment I got home, I locked myself in my room, pictured the medicine, and started replicating it like crazy. 1 bottle, 2 bottles, 10 bottles. Even though this kind of replication drained my energy completely, with my sister-in-law cooking up a storm to keep my strength up, I was basically a walking pharmaceutical factory. I sold the copied medicine to desperate dealers who needed life-saving drugs. In just 3 short days, I raked in a thick stack of cash. And right after that, I didn't just stick to selling one thing. Basically, if there was a chance, I sold it. Now that I had money, I bought my sister-in-law the softest silk, grabbed those fancy pastries you can only get in the city, and even bought a television set, a washing machine, and a refrigerator, and so on and so forth. But I knew deep down, the bigger my business got, the more eyes would be watching me. And right on cue, a chaotic commotion broke out outside the courtyard gate. It was the sound of engines, followed by a guy in gold-rimmed glasses strutting right in. "Comrade Zhao Chang, nice to meet you. I'm Manager Joe from Hengda Trading over in the provincial capital. Word on the street is that you've got your hands on a batch of imported bearings that are completely impossible to find on the market, along with some seamless steel pipes?" My heart completely skipped a beat. Bearings and steel pipes, those were the absolute lifeblood of industrial production. Look, I'm just an errand boy. The goods were shipped all the way up from the south. Oh, drop the humble act. We already checked the railway freight records. There's absolutely zero shipping data under your name. Zhao Chang, you are a rare talent. Our boss wants to invite you up to the provincial capital to run things for us. If you just say yes, a massive villa, fancy cars, and even this gorgeous sister-in-law of yours can come along and live the high life. He deliberately dragged out the word sister-in-law, letting his eyes creepily scan her figure through the doorway. My blood instantly boiled. And what if I don't go? Manager Joe just let out a cold sneer and pulled a piece of paper from his pocket. Then I'm afraid you'll be locked up tomorrow for illegal profiteering, and that little nephew of yours won't have anyone left to take care of him. The eyes behind Manager Joe's gold-rimmed glasses slithered over me like a poisonous snake. The 2 thugs behind him immediately stepped forward, deliberately showing off the black electric stun guns tucked into their belts. Back in the early 90s, out here in the sticks, those things were the law. "Chang, what's going on out there?" My sister-in-law heard the commotion from inside, and walked out holding little Hu Zi. The second Manager Joe saw her. His eyes lit up. It was this sickening, determined kind of greed. Well, this must be the sister-in-law. So gorgeous. What a massive waste keeping you tucked away in this dump of a village. Absolute pure rage shot straight to the top of my head. But right at that moment, that familiar, crushing wave of weakness hit me out of nowhere. Just to get some cash for the family, I had stayed up all last night replicating a set of highly precise, imported bearings. Right now, my body felt like a completely hollowed-out shell. Even the palms of my hands were shaking violently. My sister-in-law desperately grabbed my sleeve. I leaned into her ear, my voice low and incredibly urgent. "Go into the back room, right now. Whether we make it out of today alive, it's all on you." She froze for 3 seconds. Staring at my dead pale face, it suddenly clicked for her. Blushing, with tears in her eyes, she nodded and rushed into the inner room. Soon after, there was a faint but hurried clinking of bottles and jars. It wasn't long before I pushed the door open and stepped out. Outside stood several big, burly thugs. Holding the baby bottle, still warm to the touch, I tilted my head back and chugged it right in front of him. One of the thugs burst into maniacal laughter, but his laughter abruptly stopped. 3 seconds later, I took a step forward, and the brick beneath my foot let out a loud crack. I had actually stomped a deep crater right into it. Manager Joe's face turned pale. Just as he tried to back away, I was already standing right in front of him. I reached out and grabbed onto the bumper of his sedan. With a massive roar, I pushed from my core, and amidst the terrified screams of the crowd, I actually lifted the back end of this 1-ton car completely off the ground, with just one hand. It slammed heavily into the dirt, kicking up a massive cloud of dust. Those two thugs were so terrified they dropped their stun batons. They slumped on the ground, gasping like ducks caught by the neck. Get lost, or die. My voice was rough and hoarse. The terrifying pressure was so much that Manager Joe literally wet his pants. He abandoned his briefcase entirely, scrambling and crawling away toward the village entrance with his men in total panic. They ran off, but the burning heat inside my body didn't stop. This intense wave of energy pushed my physical strength to its absolute peak, but it also brought an indescribable side effect. My skin was frighteningly hot. My sanity was hovering right on the edge of losing control. I stumbled forward and shoved the door open. My sister-in-law was standing guard, clutching a pair of scissors, her face pale with panic. I looked at her, but everything in my vision was blurring into double images. There she stood. She was no longer just the savior who nourished me. She had become the only anchor holding my life together. Breathing heavily, I slammed my fist into the doorframe. The solid wood instantly splintered apart. She jumped in fright and quickly rushed over to feel my forehead. Oh my God, why are you burning up like this? Ah Chang, please don't scare me. Is something wrong with my, The exact moment her fingertips touched my skin, the copying ability in my mind suddenly triggered all on its own. I realized that I wasn't just able to copy inanimate objects anymore. In this moment of extreme physical enhancement, I could actually capture the living frequency of human cells. I wanted to keep this power. I wanted to protect this family. Sister-in-law, it's not enough. I gripped her wrist, my eyes filled with a desperate, struggling hunger. She looked into my bloodshot eyes. She froze for a second, and then tears welled up in her own eyes. She knew exactly how much I had suffered at the docks. Slowly, she put down the scissors, and gently unfastened the top button of her floral blouse. Her voice was trembling, yet incredibly firm. Ah Chang, if this is what it takes to save your life. That night, the cicadas outside the window chirped wildly, and I finally, truly understood the true nature of my power. I wasn't just copying physical objects anymore. I was replicating an entire era, an era that would belong to me. After that night, the power surging inside my body was no longer like it used to be, raging wildly like an uncontrollable flood. Instead, it had settled into a deep, bottomless well. As long as she was by my side, this well of mine would never run dry. I soon realized that hiding away in this remote village meant I'd only be dealing with small-time punks like Goldtooth. If I truly wanted to protect her and Huzzy, I had to go to the provincial capital. So, I packed up the fakes I had been copying over the past few days. They were motorcycle carburetors, actually way better quality than the real ones, along with a few boxes of highly sought-after penicillin. I hopped straight onto a bus heading to the capital. The Wuai market there was the absolute holy land for street hustlers in the 90s. Shortly after I arrived, my goods caught the eye of a man in a leather jacket. He was even holding a bulky brick phone. How many more of these do you have at this quality? 500, the man drew in a sharp breath. The way he looked at me, it was like he was staring at some mysterious, all-powerful crime lord. They didn't mess around at all. Cash in one hand, goods in the other. I made an absolute killing this time around. Since it was getting pretty late, I figured I'd just crash at a motel for the night. But out of nowhere, the door was kicked wide open. The big boss backing Manager Joe finally showed his face. They call him Mr. Wan. Word is, he's tied to some heavy hitters in the provincial capital, holding all the import permits for the entire province. He found out that a nobody like me actually bypassed him, secretly flooding the market with tons of precision parts. I was basically cutting off his money supply. I had just finished writing a letter to my sister-in-law in the motel room when the door was violently kicked in. This wasn't just some petty scare tactic like Manager Joe's. 4 guys barged in, all wearing matching black trench coats. They were gripping long objects wrapped in brown paper. Those were the most brutal shotguns on the streets back then. Boss Zhao, Mr. Wan invites you for a cup of tea. I stayed sitting on the edge of the bed, casually taking a sip of the divine water I'd poured into my cup earlier. My sister-in-law had specifically packed it in a thermos for me before I left, telling me it was to save my life if I ever ran out of energy. A searing, boiling energy exploded inside me in an instant. My senses expanded, instantly covering the entire floor of the motel. I slipped my hand right under the pillow. From their point of view, I had just pulled out a standard Type 54 pistol, but in my own dimension. In that split second, I used my powers to instantly clone 3 real, fully loaded weapons. I opened fire first, but against my freakishly enhanced physical stats, the bullets moved as slow as flies. I just tilted my head to dodge, and the Type 54 in my hand started spitting fire. I didn't kill them, but I shot clean through all 4 of their wrists with perfect precision. Just as I was about to interrogate these hitmen, my brick phone suddenly started ringing. Back in those days, a mobile phone was a pure status symbol, but it could also be a death warrant. Zhao Chang, you think you're a real tough guy, don't you? But I heard about that pretty little widow at your place. My cars have already rolled into your village. What do you think? Will she survive until you get back, or am I going in first? It was Mr. Wan's sinister voice on the other end of the line. My pupils shrank to pinpricks. The Type 54 pistol in my hand, just from the sheer force of my burning rage, was actually getting crushed out of shape in my palm, letting out this sickening, creaking metal groan. That absolute, blinding fury, it actually triggered a mutation in my powers. I stared dead at the brick phone on the table, but my mind was locked onto the landline back in the village. I realized I didn't even need physical contact anymore. As long as my energy field was strong enough, I could sense my own matter from miles away. Boss Wan, if you so much as lay a finger on her, I will wipe your entire bloodline off the face of the earth. I slammed the phone down. It was a 2-hour drive from the city back to the village. But I couldn't wait that long. I bolted out of the motel and locked eyes on a brand new Santana parked right downstairs. I slammed my palm down hard on the hood. Replicate, enhance. I completely drained every single drop of energy left in my body. Under the force of my powers, this totally ordinary car transformed. The chassis was massively reinforced. The engine cylinders were forcefully expanded, and the tires morphed into bulletproof, high-grip rubber. This wasn't just a car anymore. It was a roaring, mechanical beast. I aggressively chugged the very last sip of the divine water. With completely bloodshot eyes, I fired up the engine. In just 20 short minutes, I tore all the way back to the village entrance. Right at that moment, Mr. Wan's convoy was parked dead center in front of my courtyard gates. That scumbag manager Joe was forcing the gate open with a filthy smirk on his face. Inside, my sister-in-law was huddled in the corner, clutching little Huzzy tightly in her arms. She was gripping a pair of scissors like her life depended on it. Well, hello there, pretty lady. Ah Chang messed up in the city. You're coming with us to bail him out. Get lost, you animals. Her voice trembled, just as Manager Joe's hand was about to grab her shoulder. A smashed-up Santana shot out like a shooting star. It flew straight down the village dirt road, slamming violently into Mr. Wan's lead car. I stepped out from the thick cloud of dust, my body reeking of sweat and gasoline. Pushed to my absolute limits, my skin was literally starting to crack. But under her watchful eyes, I felt like an unstoppable god of war. Crying, she threw herself into my arms, and I held her tightly against me. Feeling her comforting warmth, it was like breathing life right back into me. I glared at Manager Joe and Mr. Wan in the back car, flashing them a deadly smirk. Reaching down with my right hand, I snatched up a rusted iron pipe from the dirt. Right before their terrified eyes, the pipe began to violently shake as my power surged through it. It twisted into a lethal longsword, gleaming under the moonlight. Nobody leaves here today. I had somehow evolved the ability to manipulate matter at a molecular level. The air in the courtyard froze. Mr. Wan stepped out of the backseat, trembling. He thought he was just dealing with some local brute. But looking at his lead car crushed into scrap metal, and the longsword I had just conjured out of thin air, he completely lost his nerve. This is all a huge misunderstanding. I didn't even give him the chance to speak. Fueled by pure rage, my heightened senses allowed me to track every muscle twitch as his bodyguard went to pull the trigger. I dashed forward, nothing but a blur. I swung the heavy blade, flipping it to the flat side. With a heavy thud, the broad back of the sword slammed right into the chests of the 2 frontmen. Crack, crack, the sickening sound of snapping ribs echoed through the quiet village night. I snatched Manager Joe by the throat with one hand. I hoisted him clean off the ground. The big shot from the city was now just a pathetic mess, legs kicking helplessly in the air. Boss Wan, you wanted my stash, and you dared to come after my family? Well then, let me show you what the real goods look like. I raised my left hand, gripping the empty air. In that split second, I could physically sense every briefcase and spare tire inside Mr. Wan's trunk. I unleashed the full force of my power. This wasn't just reshaping matter. This was molecular deconstruction. as Mr. Wan watched in absolute terror. His imported luxury car, worth hundreds of thousands, began to literally disintegrate into thin air. Every bolt, every piece of metal was being stripped away by an invisible hand. Crawl back to the city, and tell anyone else looking to cause trouble, if they take so much as one step into my village, they'll end up exactly like this car. I tossed Manager Joe into the mud like a dead dog. Boss Wan and his crew scrambled desperately into their remaining vehicles. The engine stalled a few times before finally choking to life. They didn't even dare to turn on their headlights as they sped off blindly into the pitch-black night. As the chaos faded, a heavy silence fell over the village. I just stood there in the middle of the courtyard. The heavy blade in my hand shattered into shimmering dust, fading into the wind. Then, the brutal exhaustion hit me like a massive tidal wave. My eyelids felt like lead. My entire body turned freezing cold, like I had just been dragged out of a frozen lake. "You idiot, why would you do that?" she cried. "If something had happened to you, what would Huzzy and I do?" She quickly wiped her tears away and wrapped her arms around me to keep me standing. Stumbling together, she helped me into the back room and kicked the door shut behind us. Inside our old 1990s dirt house, there was only the flickering glow of an oil lamp. Sitting on the edge of the bed, she stared at my sweat-drenched face. She softly bit her lower lip. A brief moment of hesitation flashed in her eyes, before melting into nothing but pure, endless affection. She gently pulled my head close, letting me rest in her arms. Her voice was so soft, only I could hear. "Ah Chang, please, don't push yourself so hard anymore. As long as I'm around, I'll always make sure you have something to drink." Right then, my damaged cells began to repair themselves at lightning speed. I could feel it, my body was undergoing a second evolution. After that battle, I knew this tiny village in the 1990s could no longer hold us back. I used my replication power on the documents Mr. Wan had dropped in his panic. Copied all the seals, and reverse forged a complete set of evidence enough to keep him rotting in jail for life, and mailed it to the provincial capital. After that, I took my sister-in-law and Huzzy, and we hopped on a train heading south. In that era where everyone carried dreams of striking it rich, on the borders of Shenzhen, I carried a massive travel bag on my back. There was no gold inside, only the absolute best, top-tier foreign integrated circuit board components of this era that I had managed to scrounge up. Give me a fulcrum, and I can replicate the entire Earth. "Ah Chang, where are we going?" My sister-in-law held onto my arm tightly, looking at the unfamiliar neon lights outside. Her eyes were filled with both anxiety and hope. I grasped her hand, looking out at the magnificent southern sea, my heart surging with immense pride and ambition. I possessed a replication ability far beyond this era. I had the most indestructible physique in the world. More importantly, I had a woman behind me who could forever provide me with boundless energy. To a place where no one will ever dare to bully you. From now on, not only am I going to give you a great life, I'm going to build an empire for you. Shenzhen, 1992. The air itself floated with the smell of burnt plastic, and the sweet, metallic scent of money. I set up a home with my sister-in-law in a rented room in Shekou. The area was sketchy, full of shady characters, but what I loved about it was its proximity to the port city, right next to all those cutting-edge tech components. "Ah Chang, are we really going to buy such an expensive machine?" She stared at the brick phone and the incredibly clunky, imported 286 computer I had lugged back from the black market. Wincing at the cost, "We're not just buying this. We're buying seeds." Over the past few days, I discovered that along with my body's second evolution, my replication power had upgraded too. I no longer needed to touch objects for a long time. As long as my palm rested on it, using the heat flow sensing within my body, could literally imprint those hair-thin integrated circuit maps directly into my brain. But the toll it took was terrifying. Replicating the CPU of this 286 computer almost made me pass out on the spot. "Ah, I'm coming." My sister-in-law had developed a habit by now. Whenever I started tinkering with those chunks of metal, she would have things prepared in the back room ahead of time. Nourished by Shenzhen's humid air, her skin had become increasingly smooth and delicate. The awkwardness of a rural village woman was gone, replaced by a gentle, mature elegance. When she handed me the warm milk bottle, there was a trace of reliance in her eyes that even she hadn't noticed. After drinking the divine water, my brain felt like a super server. Building on that 286, I even used my powers to run simulations. trying to fix the design flaws in its original components. 3 months later, a stall named Wachang Miracles appeared in the Shenzhen electronics market. While others were selling smuggled goods, I was selling stuff I had literally built from scratch. Electronic components with better compatibility and faster running speeds. My reputation quickly caught the attention of various factions in Shenzhen. But I knew, it wasn't enough. I wanted to buy a villa for my sister-in-law. I wanted to send Huzzy to the best school. I had to come up with something massive that would shake up the whole country. I set my sights on the digital audio-visual market, which was completely untapped back then. I got my hands on one of Johnny's experimental decoding chips, and locked myself in my room for 7 straight days and nights. It was an absolutely insane week, because I was constantly pushing my special abilities way past their limits. My body developed this bizarre, desperate thirst. Late that night, I collapsed on the lab floor. My muscles were spasming out of control. It felt like 10,000 ants were gnawing right through my bone marrow. My sister-in-law rushed in, holding a baby bottle, but seeing me in that twisted state scared her so much that the bottle slipped and shattered on the floor. I felt this terrifying panic, like my very life was just fading away. My hands reached out and gripped her shoulders without me even realizing it. At that exact moment, my powers sensed the absolute purest source of energy. My awareness reached right past the physical barriers. She shivered. She could feel this insane, desperate craving radiating from me. Under the dim glow of that light bulb, she looked at my face, twisted in absolute agony, and she finally understood. A simple plastic bottle couldn't hold the kind of life force a god like me desperately needed anymore. Trembling, she slowly lowered her collar. A single tear rolled down her cheek, but she gave me the softest smile. In that split second, it felt like I had just plugged straight into the universe's ultimate energy core. No filters, no waiting around. Just an endless stream of pure, nurturing life essence, pouring directly into my very soul. My abilities triggered an ultimate evolution right then and there. I realized I wasn't just copying things anymore. I could actually create them from scratch. By the very next day, the country's first ever VCD decoding chip prototype, built entirely from our own tech, was born right in the palm of my hands. Everything that happened after that felt like a wild fever dream. I founded Changsheng Tech, bought an entire office building right in the heart of Shenzhen. Big shots like Mr. Wan didn't even have the clearance to step into my office and hand me a business card anymore. I bought my sister-in-law the fanciest mansion out by Honey Lake, and hired 4 nannies just to look after little Huzzy. But I had one strict, unbreakable rule. Absolutely no one was allowed on the 2nd floor of that mansion, except for her and me. Not even Huzzy. Once he was off the bottle, we moved him down to the kids' room on the 1st floor. Time flew by, and soon it was 1998. The shockwaves from the financial crisis were still hitting hard. The streets of Shenzhen were packed with hustlers chasing a quick buck. By then, Changsheng Tech had already grown into a massive powerhouse in the national electronics game. I stood in my top floor office of a city landmark, just looking down at the endless sea of cars below. I was a long way from being Chang, the broke dockworker lifting heavy bags. Now, they called me Boss Zhao, the godfather of Shenzhen. Boss Zhao, sir, we just got a legal notice from Silicon Valley. They're claiming our decoding tech violates their core patents. They're demanding we shut down production immediately and cough up $300 million. My secretary, Lee, was shaking like a leaf as he handed me the English documents. I let out a cold laugh and just crumpled the papers right up into a ball. $300 million. It's not the money they're really after. They want my lifeline, but honestly, that wasn't even the thing bothering me the most. What was really creeping me out was my own body. As I pushed my abilities to their absolute limit, I realized my craving for that energy had turned into this sick, twisted addiction. I could feel it. My very DNA was slowly collapsing, and there was no going back. Unless I could find a much stronger, much purer source of life force. Meanwhile, back at the Honey Lake mansion, my sister-in-law was out in the back garden trimming the roses. She was well into her 30s now, but time hadn't left a single mark on her face. And that wasn't just because I bought her the most insanely expensive skincare in the world. It was because of that unique energy flowing between us. It actually restored her youth from the inside out. Chang, you've been coming home later and later these days. Just a lot going on at work, I said, trying to hide how completely drained I was. The second I stepped close to her, my mouth watered and I couldn't help but swallow hard. She took one look at my bloodshot eyes and let out a soft sigh. Then she took my hand and led me up to our sanctuary on the second floor. Into the night. What I absolutely never expected was that, on this very night, a group of uninvited guests would break into my villa. They were the remaining thugs of Mr. Wan's old crew, and they had teamed up with foreign corporate spies. They slipped into my villa, but their real target wasn't my safe. It was my sister-in-law. Using highly advanced life-detecting gear, they figured out that the true source of my powers actually pointed right to this seemingly ordinary woman. With a deafening crash, the villa's tempered glass was blown apart by a targeted explosive. 4 mercenaries totally decked out in high-tech combat suits smashed right through the windows. They weren't holding guns, but heavy-duty stun crossbows packed with enough juice to instantly drop an elephant. "Grab that woman, the boss wants her alive," the lead guy barked out in broken Chinese. Right at that moment, I was down in the basement, trying to replicate a highly complex part for a semiconductor lithography machine. That gut-wrenching wave of absolute danger instantly ripped right through the floorboards. I let out a furious roar, my body turning into a blazing streak of lightning as I smashed straight through the ceiling and blasted up to the second floor. That was the very first time she had ever seen me truly lose control. A faint, glowing golden light started rippling right beneath my skin. It was the absolute sign of my powers completely overloading. Staring down those incoming stun bolts, I simply raised my hand and fiercely crushed the empty air. Copy, reverse. Those bolts completely froze right in midair, and then, moving at an even more terrifying speed, and packing a massive surge of voltage, they shot right back, instantly burning all 4 mercenaries to an absolute crisp. But I completely missed the one sniper hiding deep in the shadows. "Ah Chang, watch out!" my sister-in-law screamed, violently shoving me out of the way. A custom bullet, completely laced with some kind of highly corrosive poison, tore right across her shoulder. Even though it was just a surface wound, that horrifying purple poison started spreading viciously across her skin. In that one fraction of a second, my entire sanity completely shattered. I rushed over and held her incredibly tight. Watching her face turn deadly pale, I felt the massive mountain of strength inside me completely crumble to pieces. Holding her close, I frantically started pouring every single ounce of my powers straight into her, totally desperate to heal her wounds. But I was hit with a crushing wave of sheer despair when I realized I could only copy objects. I couldn't copy life itself. "Sister-in-law," I choked out, "my life has been truly worth it," she whispered. Right at that exact moment, my brain, completely overwhelmed by devastating grief, slipped into a terrifyingly cold state known as absolute zero. Staring helplessly at the rapidly dying cells around her wound, a completely insane idea suddenly flashed into my mind. What if I could actually replicate living cells? What if I could use my powers to infinitely multiply her healthy cells and have them completely devour the poison? But I desperately needed energy. An unimaginable amount of pure energy. I frantically started searching for absolutely anything around me that I could turn into power. I slammed my hands onto the solid wood furniture, onto all the incredibly expensive electronics, and even straight into the heavy steel foundation of the villa itself. Turn into pure energy, all of you. Every single light within a 1-kilometer radius completely blacked out. The entire metal skeleton of the villa started violently twisting and melting away. I violently channeled the raw, primal atomic energy of all these materials right through my very own body, and injected absolutely all of it directly into her fading body. That night, a breathtaking, surreal aurora lit up the sky above Shangni Lake. 3 days later, my sister-in-law slowly opened her eyes in the hospital bed. Not only had she miraculously survived, her skin was glowing, soft and flawless like a newborn baby's. And deep in her eyes, I could see the exact same faint, glowing energy that was inside me. My insane gamble had actually worked. But in a way, it had also completely failed. It was a success because I completely saved her life, and even gifted her with incredible self-healing powers. But it was a total failure because this massive reverse flow of energy had completely flipped the entire dynamic of our connection. I still completely relied on her, but now, she desperately needed my energy field too. To maintain her extraordinary new life force, we had truly become, in every sense of the word, completely inseparable. "Ah Chang, I feel like I can actually hear your heartbeat." I gently held her warm hand. Just then, the roar of helicopters echoed outside my window. I knew those Silicon Valley big shots couldn't sit still any longer. They were coming in person to negotiate, but I was no longer that helpless hustler, stuck playing defense. Staring out the window, I said coldly, "Sister-in-law, our business needs to expand beyond this planet." Standing in front of that lithography machine I had just restored, and upgraded 10,000 times over, I began replicating an alloy that had never existed on this earth. It shimmered with the color of the deep cosmos. On New Year's Eve of 1999, there were no fireworks in the skies over Shenzhen, because that year, I ordered all Changsheng tech buildings in the city to stay brightly lit around the clock. Sitting in my lab, I stared at a massive vacuum-sealed glass case right in front of me. Inside, floating in midair, was a chip no bigger than a fingernail. But this was no ordinary chip. It was the result of my special powers, an atomic-level fusion of gold, rare earths, and an unknown element extracted from a meteorite. After restructuring them atom by atom, I gave it a name, the Eternal Heart. Plant this into any machine, and it would self-heal just like a living organism. It could even evolve. This was the exact miracle those Silicon Valley suits dreamed of getting their hands on. But my hands were shaking. After 7 straight days of intense atomic restructuring, my right pinky had completely turned into cold, dead, blue-gray metal. I could literally feel the metallic stiffness creeping up my veins, inching toward my wrist. It was the backlash of my powers. I had replicated way too many lifeless objects. And now, my own body was turning into one. "Chang, please, stop." The door creaked open softly. Sister-in-law walked in, holding a steaming bowl of sweet dumplings. She stared at my metallic finger, her eyes welling up with a mix of sheer terror and deep heartbreak. Then, completely naturally, she and I headed into the bedroom. 10 minutes later, the sickly gray on my fingertips faded away like a receding tide, replaced by a healthy, warm flush. When the bell struck midnight, ringing in the year 2000, the software patch released by Changsheng Tech saved half the servers on the entire globe. I became Time Magazine's Person of the Year. The headline was just 3 words, Hand of God. But at that exact moment, the real hunt began. A shadowy organization known as Atlas locked down my shipping routes across the globe. They were a ruthless syndicate made up of the world's top billionaires and arms dealers. Their goal was brutally simple: tear Zhao Chang apart and study my genes. "Mr. Zhao, your company is suspected of monopolizing the global semiconductor market. We are forced to impose joint sanctions against you." The voice on the phone was as cold and lifeless as a machine. I leaned back in my rocking chair. Right next to me, sister-in-law was teaching little Huzzy how to write. I just gave a soft chuckle into the receiver. "Sanctions? I think you've got this all wrong. I'm not doing business with you guys. I'm doing you a charity." With that, I slammed my hand down on a red button on my desk. Exactly 1 minute later, every single satellite worldwide running on a Changsheng Tech chip, every radar, every financial system, went completely dead. In the blink of an eye, the entire Western world was thrown right back to the steam age. Then, I hung up the phone without a second thought. But, even as I brought the arrogant Western Hemisphere to its knees, the moment I returned to my villa, tiny, hair-like cracks began to splinter across my skin. A blinding golden light seeped out of those cracks, making it feel like my entire body was about to shatter into a million glowing pieces. Even though I had just gotten a refill of energy, it clearly wasn't enough. Sister-in-law looked at me, a fierce determination flashing in her eyes. She knew that the old-fashioned way just wasn't going to cut it anymore against the raging vortex of energy tearing me apart. She grabbed my hand and led me down to the secret bunker beneath the villa. Down there, waiting for us, was something I had personally replicated. In the jade pool, fashioned after an ancient spirit spring, I felt my consciousness completely leave my flesh that night. I plunged into the ocean of my sister-in-law's life force. When I opened my eyes again, I realized my powers had evolved to a level that terrified even me. And on her forehead, a faint, shimmering golden mark appeared. She had become the vessel for my powers, and my one and only weakness. But the Atlas organization wasn't about to give up. Deep within the Mariana Trench, 10,000 meters down, they awakened an ancient relic that had been asleep for tens of thousands of years. It was a biological computer, one that also possessed self-awareness. They believed that only a god could defeat a god. "Zhao Chang, if you don't hand over that woman, we will activate the Crust Shatterer." This was no idle threat. Earthquake monitoring stations all over the globe were blaring with alarms. If that relic was fully activated, entire continents would sink to the bottom of the sea. I looked out the window at the raging ocean, then turned to my sister-in-law. "Will you come down to the bottom of the sea with me?" She just smiled. There wasn't a hint of fear in her smile, only absolute trust. "Wherever you go, I go." Using my powers, within 3 minutes, I replicated and upgraded a private submarine capable of withstanding the water pressure at 10,000 meters. Honestly, you couldn't even call it a submarine anymore. The depths of the Mariana Trench were dead silent. Standing before that ancient computer, massive as a mountain range, our sub looked as tiny as a speck of dust. The electromagnetic waves it emitted tried to tear me apart, trying to decipher the underlying code of my powers. A cold, robotic voice exploded in my mind. I held my sister-in-law's hand tight as we stepped right out of the hatch. Standing directly on the ocean floor, 10,000 meters down, my power projected a transparent, spherical shield, keeping the crushing seawater at bay. I let out a cold scoff, slamming both hands down hard onto the ocean reef. Wide area, absolute replication. I was actually trying to replicate the physical properties of the entire trench. I wanted to use the weight of the entire ocean to crush this arrogant machine. But the horrifying drain on my energy instantly started tearing my body apart. My blood vaporized from the intense power before it could even bleed out. "Chang, take my energy too." My sister-in-law threw her arms around me from behind, pouring every last drop of her life essence into me without holding anything back. In that exact moment, we were no longer two separate beings. A blinding light, brighter than the sun itself, erupted from the ocean floor. Under our combined strike, every logic circuit in that ancient computer instantly overloaded. The sheer energy it held, enough to wipe out continents, was forcibly replicated by me, transformed into a gentle spiritual essence, and scattered across the entire ocean. The storms finally settled. Chang Sheng Technology announced its disbandment. I shattered all of our core technologies into fragments and scattered them into every hidden corner of the internet. They belong to all of humanity now, rather than being hoarded by a few greedy monopolies. I took my sister-in-law and huzzy, and we went back to that little village up in the northeast. Standing in front of my older brother's grave, I set down a bottle of liquor, along with a photo of me and my sister-in-law at the penthouse in Shenzhen. "Brother, I've taken really good care of her. Our Zhao family practically rules the world now. But we just wanted to come back and farm the land." When the villagers saw that Zhao Cheng had returned, they noticed he leased a massive stretch of wasteland behind the mountain and started growing ginseng. Nobody knew that eating just one of those ginseng roots could add 10 years to your life. And absolutely no one knew that every single night, inside that newly renovated old house, the very man who had dominated the tech world in the 1990s was still just like a child, completely dependent on his sister-in-law's endless magical warmth. "Chang, it's time to rest." The lamplight flickered as my sister-in-law gently closed the window. I held her hand softly, feeling the divine power inside me finally settle into a peaceful calm. Life after returning to the village seemed perfectly normal on the surface, but I knew the truth. Both my body and hers had completely transcended the realm of ordinary mortals. In the spring of 2005, the peach blossoms in the village bloomed with an unnatural, mesmerizing beauty. Hu Zi is already in middle school. The kid inherited some of my modified genes. He's way too smart, and can even snap solid iron with his bare hands. But I've been keeping his powers in check. I just want him to live a normal life. After all, he was raised on my sister-in-law's vital essence. It makes sense that his body is different, but compared to me, Hu Zi's powers are actually pretty tame. I've noticed my own metal manipulation has mutated into something much more bizarre. My skin has become almost transparent. In the moonlight, you can see that what's flowing through my veins isn't bright red blood. It's golden, liquid energy. "Ah Chang, did you stay up all night again?" My sister-in-law walked into the courtyard holding a wooden basin, her eyes full of worry. She had changed, too. The blade of time had completely spared her face. Looking at her now, she looked even more youthful than she did as a newlywed. But this kind of immortality didn't come without a price. I could feel it, since she acted as my one and only energy core. Her mind was starting to drift. Sometimes, she just muttered to herself into thin air. It was like she was talking to some higher dimensional being. "I don't know," I told her. "I just have this feeling. That the computer we shut down at the bottom of the ocean that day isn't completely dead. I took the wooden basin from her hands. The moment our fingertips brushed, a faint spark of electricity crackled between us. This dependency we had, it wasn't just physical anymore. It was a symbiosis of our very souls. Without her, I'd collapse into a pile of dust in a heartbeat. But, ever since that day, life had been pretty peaceful. That is, until Tomb Sweeping Day, when everything fell apart. Xiao Li, my most trusted assistant back in Shen City, suddenly vanished. And it wasn't just him. All 12 core engineers who worked on the Eternal Heart project disappeared without a trace from all over the world, all on the exact same day. And right after that, an encrypted signal smashed through every single firewall I had set up. It popped up right on the screen of the old, disconnected computer in my room. The video showed a desolate, frozen base. An old man in a white lab coat was standing with his back to the camera. His voice buzzed through a digital synthesizer. "Boss Zhao, you shouldn't have hoarded that miracle all to yourself. We need your carrier. It is time to complete the final stage of human evolution." The word carrier made my blood boil with murderous rage. They weren't talking about a microchip. They meant her. I knew we were in imminent danger. I immediately grabbed her and Hu Zi, ready to bolt from the village to somewhere safe. But the moment we reached the edge of the village, hundreds of black metal pillars shot up from the surrounding farm fields. The pillars unleashed a bizarre, high-frequency shockwave. It was specifically tuned to jam my powers. It felt like a sledgehammer slammed into my brain. My replication abilities, powers I used to control effortlessly, were completely locked down. I thrust my hand out, trying to forge a long blade, but all that fizzled out of my palm was a pathetic wisp of smoke. "Zhao Chang, this dampening field was built especially for you." Dozens of soldiers decked out in exoskeleton armor leapt from the helicopters above. Their weapons blasted out freezing streams of liquid nitrogen, trying to ice me over in a split second. "Protect Hu Zi," I roared, throwing my body in front of the first freezing blast. The absolute zero chill. It nearly froze the golden blood solid in my veins. I fell to one knee, gasping for air, and watched in horror as those cold muzzles aimed right at her. Pure despair washed over me. But right then, a warm hand pressed firmly against the middle of my back. "Ah Chang, forget the rules." Her voice was steady. This time, take it all. She wasn't trembling anymore. Instead, her voice carried a commanding weight I had never heard before. Ignoring the shouts of the soldiers, she threw her arms around me. In that split second, the energy flowing from her wasn't just a slow trickle anymore. It was a violent, supernova explosion, surging like wildfire straight down my spine. It defied all biological logic. Right there, right in the middle of their power-dampening field. My once near-transparent body began to expand with explosive power. A blinding golden light shattered the clouds, turning miles of pitch-black night into broad daylight. I slowly stood up. Every single step made the earth quake. Those so-called high-tech pillars completely shattered under my crushing aura. With a casual flick of my wrist, the nitrogen and oxygen in the air restructured themselves right to my exact will. This wasn't copying, it was direct creation. Thousands of spears forged from pure energy materialized out of thin air. And with a single command, they rained down like an apocalyptic storm. Those soldiers in their shiny exoskeletons didn't even have time to scream. They, along with their fancy tech, were instantly reduced to nothingness. But the backlash of this outburst was terrifying. When the light finally faded, and I returned to my human form, I saw that half of my beloved's hair had turned completely white in an instant. To save me, she had completely drained her life force, the very essence that kept her youthful. My heart shattered into pieces, and I pulled her tightly into my arms. She gave me a weak, gentle smile and tenderly brushed my cheek. "You silly boy, am I ugly now that my hair is white?" "No, you're the most beautiful woman in the entire world," I choked out, clenching my jaw as my tears fell onto her forehead. It hit me then. As long as we stayed on Earth, those greedy, bloodthirsty eyes would never leave her alone. I had to teach this wretched world one final lesson, and then I'd take her somewhere truly safe. In 2008, while the whole globe was totally distracted by the Olympics, I headed to the desolate peaks of the Himalayas. Using my powers, I recreated and fully upgraded a manned interstellar spacecraft, and I didn't use a single earthly resource. Every piece of material was a super metal that I extracted straight from the deep crust and synthesized myself. "Boss Zhao, Are you really leaving? Little Lee, whom I had rescued earlier, stood nervously by the hatch. I simply nodded. I glanced back at my beloved, her gorgeous black hair finally restored, and firmly sealed the hatch. With a silent, powerful hum from the thrusters, our ship vanished into the atmosphere in the blink of an eye. At sheer propulsion, tens of thousands of years ahead of human tech? It all came from the unique, closed-loop energy shared between her and me. On the dark side of the moon, I unleashed my powers once again. In just a single month, I built a breathtaking, dreamlike city of glass completely out of thin air. We had fresh oxygen, flowing rivers, and all the lush seeds we had brought over from Earth. And most importantly, my beloved's absolute favorite roses. Right in the heart of our lunar city, stood a magnificent sanctuary forged entirely from sapphire. Thanks to the anti-gravity field inside, we would effortlessly float in mid-air together. And I noticed something amazing. As our environment changed, the energy flowing between us became even more profound and pure. Ah Chang, just look at those stars. It feels like they're whispering to me, she murmured, resting safely against my chest. Her beautiful body was radiating a soft, ethereal silver glow. I realized then that she wasn't just my energy source anymore. She was evolving into a literal interstellar signal amplifier. Through our connection, my powers expanded so much that I could feel the movement of distant asteroids right at the edge of the solar system. This deep, intimate reliance on each other, it had transcended way beyond mere physical needs. It had blossomed into a pure, cosmic-level symbiosis. Then, late one night, I was busy trying to synthesize a special fertilizer to help our plants thrive faster in the lunar soil. Suddenly, a violently intense shockwave rippled out from the direction of Earth. It was humanity, running some reckless nuclear test, or unleashing some forbidden weapon. I just let out a heavy sigh, my palms starting to glow with a faint energy. She gently reached out, grasping my hand, and gave a soft shake of her head. Just let them be, Ah Chang. As long as we still have enough fuel, as long as our little home is safe, all their chaos can never reach us. I gazed deeply into her gentle face, the very same face that had saved my life back in the 1990s. Bathed in the pure starlight, she looked absolutely divine. In that perfect, quiet tranquility, I slowly leaned down, and gently continued drawing from her, the sole source of my life's energy. Later, wanting to ensure my boy Huzzy could protect himself, I decided to condense a fragment of my powers into a literal seed. Calling upon my energy, I forged a tiny, crystalline shard, infused with a full third of my godlike power. Huzzy, listen to me. Do not use this unless it is absolute life or death, I warned him, solemnly placing it in his hands inside the lunar base command center. Dad, are you afraid the folks back on Earth will stir up trouble again? I'm afraid you won't be able to protect your mom. Remember, everything our Zhao family has, comes from that woman. She is the roots, and we are the leaves. Hu Zi nodded deeply. At night, the lights on the far side of the moon were incredibly bright. I gazed at that distant blue planet. There was no hatred in my heart, only a profound sense of peace. That poor kid, Zhao Chang from the 90s, is already dead. He died in the jaws of the tiger that night. Now, I am the watcher of this silent, starry sky. Time has no meaning on the moon. In the blink of an eye, decades have passed. Earth's civilizations have risen and fallen countless times. Chang Sheng technology has long become a name of pure myth. Yet, my sister-in-law and I still look exactly as we did the day we left Earth. Ah Chang, tell me, if we hadn't drank that potion back then, what would things be like right now? My sister-in-law sat at the edge of Moon City, watching the magnificent Earth rise in the distance. I just smiled, and pulled her tightly into my arms. Then I'd probably be a farmer covered in wrinkles right now, scraping a living out of the dirt every day, stressing over how to afford a floral shirt for you. Life like that wouldn't be too bad, I suppose. But I prefer this right here. I reached out, my fingertips brushing across the void of space. With a single thought, a tiny meteor instantly shattered, bursting into a cloud of stardust, dancing a silent, beautiful dance just for her. Because now, I have all the time in the universe to love you.